So to put boredom in context, because in the book I talk about how boredom can be a good thing in the context of today. So to understand why people get bored in the first place, boredom is this evolutionary discomfort, and it tells us whatever you're doing with your time right now, the return on your time invested is worn thin. So let's pretend it's 1 million years ago. We're all sitting on a hill and hunting. Now we need food or else we're going to die. So we're hoping for animals to come through. Mm-hmm. No animals are coming through. So what would happen is boredom would kick on and it would just tell us, go do something else. Like, this isn't doing anything for you. In the past, that something else was productive. It might be that we went and picked food, other food, right? We'd pick berries or something. So we'd survive. But today, when we feel the discomfort of boredom, we've got like the easiest, most stimulating escapes from it. You pull out your phone. You turn on a TV screen. You go on a computer. Now, it's not that these things are inherently bad. It's just that is how we deal with boredom all the time. So the average person spends more than 12 hours a day on digital media now. When I wrote
12 hours?
When I wrote the book, the stat was 11 hours, 6 minutes. Now it is 12 hours, 31 minutes, I want to say. Like, we've added another hour and a half.
Wow. And you said that you would like survey your students.
Yeah.
It's like who has the highest.
Oh, yeah.
What was the highest you've ever heard?
The highest I've ever heard?
God, I can't believe they share it.
Yeah, I'm shocked too. And this one was gross. 16 hours a day on the cell phone. And I'm like, dude, what? I mean, this is a 100-person class. And I'm like, I mean, this kid beat the hell out of everyone. And I'm like.
Most people 7, 8, 9, 10, somewhere around there.
Yeah. Most of my students tend to be between like 4 and 8. So this kid's 16. I'm like, what is going on? And he just goes, TikTok, man. I can't stop watching it. I just watch TikTok like all day. I'm like, oh, that's like a clinical thing, you know? That's like a legit addiction.
Yeah, that's an addiction.
Yeah.
But I wonder what the line is, you know, because like you're talking about really how boredom is a trigger to the recognition of what you're doing with your time.
Right.
Right. And it's good feedback as to the use of your time. Mm-hmm. If you never get bored because of something that is actually not productive, which don't get me wrong, is like I watch Netflix sometimes. I look at videos on YouTube. So I don't think it's about the eradication necessarily of the behavior. But it's like anything. If you're not choosing your relationship with it, then it's choosing it. Much like my relationship to alcohol felt a lot that way. Of like, why can't I connect not over a beer? Like, I know I can, but why is it that I feel like if I go on a bachelor party, I have to drink? Right. Or like, and the social pressure of those things. Like, if you're not in control of the relationship, then that's going to create anxiety anyways.
Yeah, totally.
You know? Because then you're at the whim of it. But 16 hours, like, I don't know where the line is, because I would imagine you're saying the average person spends 12 hours.
Yeah, that's from all forms of media.
It's a fucking job. Like, that's more than a job.
It's from cell phones, TVs, computer screens, iPads, all this stuff. It's 12 hours a day.
Wild.
And so, you know, to me, and exactly to your point, it's like, it's not saying don't do anything. But I think one of the issues we see today is so much emphasis gets put on cell phones, which makes sense because they're on our persons all the time. But what tends to happen is that when someone makes an effort to take an hour off of their cell phone screen time, they get bored and they're like, oh, what the hell do I do? And they watch Netflix or they go on their computer.
Oh, yeah. So they're not actually.
Your brain doesn't know the difference between those two things, right? So you want to think, how can I add more boredom into my life? And a way that I think about this is I go for a walk every day outside, 20 minutes, and I don't take my cell phone. And it's just.
Do you do that every morning or just
sometime in the day? Yeah. And it sort of gives your mind time to wander, time to process, time to come up with weird ideas. Because the idea thing, back to what we were talking about, I mean, that is legit. There's this study that's one of the best, weirdest studies ever. And scientists take two groups of people. They let one sit in a room for 15 minutes and they're like, yeah, just do whatever. So all these people pull out their cell phones. They get another group and they bore the hell out of these people. They don't let them look at cell phones. They make them view this demonstration of how to fold laundry. Like, it's the most boring thing in the world. And then they give them a creativity test. Now, the bored group came up with more creative answers than the non-bored group, like consistently. And that's because having time where your brain is just sort of downturned and you're allowing your mind to wander and you're because when something bores you, the first thing that happens is that your brain starts to wander. you mind wander, right? You're just kind of going inward. You're thinking weird stuff. And that's where ultimately good ideas come from, is that space. That's why people have good ideas in the shower.
Oh,
because you're not doing anything. So you're unstimulated. You're just kind of like letting your mind wander.